All right, so get this. A new AI model just dropped, and it's making some serious waves. You know how we've been talking about open source AI and its potential? Well, this one is a game changer. It's called OpenThinker 32B, and it was developed by the Open Thoughts Consortium. What's really cool is that it's going head-to-head with some of the big names out there, like DeepSeek, the leading system from China. And, well, hold on to your hats because it's getting similar results, but with way less training data. I mean, this is huge, especially for developers who are all about open source.
It is pretty amazing to see a model like OpenThinker come out of nowhere like this. It really shows you how powerful, efficient algorithms and smart data strategies can be. It's like they're leveling the playing field for AI development.
Okay, so let's dive into what OpenThinker can actually do. One of the big tests for AI reasoning is MathHitch 500. It's that benchmark where they see how well a model can solve really tough math problems. Well, OpenThinker just blew it out of the water. It scored a 90.6% accuracy. Yeah. It actually beat DeepSeek, which scored 89.4%. That's not just a win, that's a serious statement.
And what's even more impressive is that OpenThinker did this with a fraction of the training data. I mean, DeepSeek used a ton of data, and OpenThinker just crushed it with less. It really makes you think maybe it's not just about the size of the data, but how you use it.
Okay, hold on a sec. Less is more. How is that even possible to get better results with less information?
It's all about the quality of the data and how it's structured. The Open Thoughts team created this data set called Open Thoughts 114, and it's designed to make the model learn more efficiently. Think of it this way. Instead of giving the model a plain old textbook, they're giving it the VIP treatment. Highlighted passages, study guides, practice problems with detailed solutions. All of that helps OpenThinker learn way faster and understand the concepts on a deeper level.
So they're basically giving OpenThinker the ultimate cheat sheet for AI learning. But how do they make sure all this extra information is actually correct and useful? It seems like it would be easy to drown in a sea of data.
Well, they have some pretty clever quality control measures in place. For code-based problems, they use something called Curator. It checks the solutions against specific test cases. And for math problems, they have an AI judge that verifies the answers. It's like having a super smart teaching assistant, making sure everyone's work is on point.
That's fascinating. So it sounds like a lot of thought went into making this data set, and that's probably why OpenThinker is performing so well.
Yeah.
It's not just about throwing data at the problem. It's about giving the model the right kind of information in the right way. This could be a real game changer for smaller research teams or anyone who doesn't have access to these massive data sets.
Totally. It opens up so many possibilities for AI development and makes it more accessible to everyone.
Now, OpenThinker isn't just shaking things up because of its data efficiency. It's also making waves because it's fully open source. Now, both DeepSeek and OpenThinker are considered open source, but there's a big difference.
Right. DeepSeek shares its model architecture, which is cool, but they keep their training data under wraps. It's kind of like giving you the blueprints for a building, but not telling you what materials to use.
Okay, so it's kind of open source, but not really. That's not very helpful for researchers who want to really understand how DeepSeek works or build on it.
Exactly. OpenThinker, on the other hand, they went all in. They made their model and their training data public, so now anyone can check out the data, understand how they train the model, and even try to replicate the results. It creates a much more open and collaborative environment in the AI community.
That's a huge win for transparency and open science. Imagine a world where everyone can contribute to cutting-edge AI.
Yeah, it's a pretty exciting thought.
And speaking of exciting things, the release of OpenThinker comes at a time when AI reasoning is exploding.
Yeah.
It seems like every day there's a new breakthrough or someone announcing something crazy.
It really is a wild time in the AI world. Just in the past few days, we've seen OpenAI talk about GPT-5 and its reasoning capabilities. Elon Musk is hyping up Grok 3 from xAI like it's the ultimate reasoning machine. And then there's new research with Deepfermies, another open source reasoning model based on Meta's Llama 3.1. It's like everyone is racing to the top to create the most advanced AI.
It feels like we're on the verge of something huge in AI, and OpenThinker is right there in the middle of it all. It's challenging the big players and pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
What's really interesting is that this whole wave of innovation was sparked by DeepSeek's initial release. Even though they didn't fully open source everything, they showed that these open source models could perform just as well as OpenAI's GPT models, but at a fraction of the cost. That really got the open source movement going.
So in a way, DeepSeek, even with its limitations, paved the way for models like OpenThinker to step up and take the lead.
Yeah, it's like passing the torch.
And the fact that OpenThinker is already beating DeepSeek in some areas, even with less data. It really shows the power of open collaboration and the ingenuity of the open source community. Speaking of the Open Thoughts Consortium, let's give a shout out to the team behind all of this. It's a global effort with researchers from top universities like Stanford, Berkeley, and UCLA, and they've got institutions like the Jülich Supercomputing Center in Germany and the Toyota Research Institute in the US on board.
It's a really impressive collaboration. It shows that people are starting to realize how important it is to develop AI openly and make it accessible to everyone. By pooling their resources and knowledge, these researchers are pushing the boundaries and opening up AI for the world.
It's inspiring to see what can happen when brilliant minds from all over come together with a common goal. But let's not get carried away with all the amazing things Open Thinker can do. Let's take a step back for a second and think about what this means for the average person. Why should someone who's not a developer or an AI researcher care about all of this?
That's a great question. The truth is, these advancements in open source AI have the potential to impact all of our lives in some pretty big ways.
Okay, now I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Well, just think about the things you use every day. Search engines, social media, online shopping, a lot of it is powered by AI. And as these open source AI models get better and better, we're going to see a ton of innovation in those areas.
So we're talking about things like better search results, more personalized recommendations, maybe even chatbots that can actually understand us?
Exactly. And because these models are open source, there's a better chance for transparency and accountability. We might actually get to see how these systems work and how they're using our data.
That's a nice thought, especially with all the worries about data privacy these days. But let's get back to Open Thinker for a minute. You mentioned it has applications beyond those everyday tools and services. What are some of the bigger possibilities?
Well, open thinkers' ability to reason and solve really complex problems could be huge for fields like healthcare education and scientific research. Imagine using it to analyze medical images. It could help doctors diagnose diseases more accurately, especially those that are hard to catch early on.
That would be incredible.
Or think about creating personalized learning plans for students. Open thinkers could adapt to their individual needs and learning styles.
It'd be like having a personal tutor for every student.
Exactly. And in scientific research, it could help analyze massive amounts of data and speed up discoveries in things like drug development or materials science.
It sounds like Open Thinker has the potential to change the game in so many different areas. It's like this Swiss Army knife of AI.
That's a great way to put it. And because it's open source, all of this power is available to a much wider range of people. Researchers, developers, even just curious individuals. It's democratizing AI and opening up a world of creativity and innovation.
It's hard to grasp the full impact of all of this. We've seen how fast technology can change our lives, and it feels like open source AI is going to accelerate that process even more.
It's definitely an exciting time to be following AI development. And Open Thinker's release is a major step forward in making AI more open, accessible, and beneficial for everyone.
So where do we go from here? What's next for Open Thinker and the Open Thoughts Consortium?
Well, the team is constantly working to make the model better and expand what it can do. They're encouraging developers and researchers from around the world to join the project, which will help refine the model, identify any biases, and explore new applications.
It's amazing that anyone with the skills and interest can contribute to something this powerful.
It really embodies the spirit of open source.
It does, and I think that's one of the most exciting things about Open Thinker. It's not just about a single model or team. It's about creating a community of innovators who are passionate about using AI to make the world a better place.
Absolutely.
I love that. So what would you say is the most important takeaway for our listeners today?
I think the main message is that open source AI is evolving at an incredible pace, and it has the potential to change our lives in some really profound ways. Open Thinker is a perfect example. It shows that you don't need huge data sets or big corporations to develop powerful and impactful AI.
It's an inspiring story, and it makes me optimistic about the future of AI. But before we get too caught up in all the excitement, I think we need to remember that there are still challenges and potential risks with AI. Even with open source, there are concerns about unintended consequences, security vulnerabilities, and the possibility of misuse.
You're absolutely right. It's crucial that we approach AI development and deployment with a sense of responsibility and caution. We need to think about the ethical implications, ensure transparency and accountability, and develop safeguards to minimize potential risks.
It's a delicate balance, and it requires a thoughtful and collaborative approach from researchers, developers, policymakers, and society as a whole.
I agree. And as we move forward, it's important to have open and honest conversations about the potential benefits and risks of AI, so we can shape a future where this technology truly serves humanity's best interests.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time for us to wrap up this part of our deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground, from the technical details of Open Thinker to the bigger societal implications of open source AI.
It has been a fascinating journey. I hope our listeners have enjoyed it and learned something new.
I'm sure they have. But before we say goodbye, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought. Open Thinker's story is just one example of the amazing things that can happen when we work together openly and share knowledge freely. It's a reminder that the future of AI is not set in stone. It's something we create together. So as you go about your day, I encourage you to think about how you can contribute to this exciting and rapidly evolving field. Whether you're a developer or researcher or just someone who's curious about the possibilities of AI, there's a role for you to play in shaping the future.
I couldn't agree more.
So until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep imagining the possibilities.
I'll see you then.
Take care.
You too.
Bye.
It really could have a big impact. Think about like all the tools and services you use every day, from search engines to social media platforms to like even online shopping. So many of those things are powered by AI. And as open source AI models like this become more advanced, you can bet we're going to see a wave of innovation in all those areas.
So maybe like better search results, more personalized recommendations, maybe even smarter chatbots, the kind that actually get what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. And because these models are open source, there's a greater potential for transparency and accountability, which means, we could have more insight into how these systems work and how our data is being used.
Okay, so that's actually a really good point.
Yeah.
Especially with all the concerns about data privacy these days. But getting back to Open Thinker for a sec, you were saying that it has applications beyond just like these everyday tools and services. What are some of the more like groundbreaking possibilities?
Well, one of the things that's really exciting is Open Thinker's ability to reason and solve complex problems. That could be huge for fields like healthcare education and scientific research. Imagine if you could use Open Thinker to analyze medical images. It could help doctors diagnose diseases way more accurately, especially for conditions that are difficult to detect early on.
Yeah, that could be revolutionary.
Or think about using Open Thinker to create personalized learning plans for students. It could adapt to their individual needs and learning styles.
It'd be like every student had their own personal tutor.
Right. And then in scientific research, Open Thinker could be used to analyze huge amounts of data. It could really accelerate discoveries in fields like drug development or material science.
So it sounds like Open Thinker is kind of like a Swiss Army knife of AI,
Yeah.
capable of tackling all sorts of challenges.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. And because it's open source, all of these capabilities are accessible to a much wider range of people. Researchers, developers, even just curious individuals. It's democratizing AI and opening up a world of possibilities.
It's really hard to comprehend the sheer scale of the potential impact. I mean, we've already seen how quickly technology can change our lives, and it feels like open source AI could accelerate that process even further.
It's a very exciting time to be involved in AI. And Open Thinker's release is a big step towards a future where AI is more open, accessible, and beneficial for everyone.
So where do we go from here? What are the next steps for Open Thinker and the Open Thoughts Consortium?
Well, the Open Thoughts team is always working to improve Open Thinker. They're expanding its capabilities, and they're encouraging developers and researchers from all over the world to contribute to the project. And that's going to help refine the model, identify any biases, and explore new applications.
It's amazing to think that anyone with the skills and interest can contribute to the development of such a powerful AI system. It really speaks to the collaborative spirit of the open source movement.
It really does.
And I think that's one of the coolest things about Open Thinker. It's not just about a single model or a single team. It's about building a community of innovators who are passionate about using AI to make the world a better place.
Absolutely.
So what would you say is the most important takeaway for our listeners today?
Well, I think the key message is that open source AI is evolving incredibly fast, and it has the potential to transform our lives in really significant ways. Open Thinker is a prime example of this. It shows that you don't need massive datasets or big corporations to develop powerful and impactful AI systems.
It's a really inspiring story, and it makes me feel optimistic about the future of AI. But before we get too carried away with all the excitement, I think it's important to acknowledge that there are still challenges and potential risks associated with AI. Even with open source models, there are concerns about unintended consequences, security vulnerabilities, and the potential for misuse.
You're absolutely right. It's essential that we approach the development and deployment of AI with a sense of responsibility and caution. We need to consider the ethical implications, ensure transparency and accountability, and develop safeguards to mitigate potential risks.
It's a delicate balancing act, and it requires a thoughtful and collaborative approach from researchers, developers, policymakers, and society as a whole.
I agree. And as we move forward, I think it's really important to engage in open and honest conversations about the potential benefits and risks of AI, so we can work together to shape a future where this technology serves humanity's best interests.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time for us to wrap up this part of our deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground. From the technical details of OpenThinker's architecture to the broader societal implications of open source AI.
It's been a fascinating conversation.
But before we say goodbye, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought. OpenThinker's story is just one example of the incredible things that can happen when we embrace open collaboration and share knowledge freely. It's a reminder that the future of AI is not predetermined. It's something we create together. So as you go about your day, I encourage you to think about how you can contribute to this exciting and rapidly evolving field. Whether you're a developer, a researcher, or simply someone who's curious about the possibilities of AI, there's a role for you to play in shaping the future.
It's wild, right? We started talking about OpenThinker's performance on these benchmarks, and now we're talking about like the whole future of AI. It's kind of mind-blowing.
Yeah, it really is. OpenThinker is a big deal, but it also kind of makes us think about the bigger picture. Like, where is AI development going, and what choices do we need to make now?
So let's talk about those choices. What are the big questions we should be thinking about as AI keeps evolving so fast? Well, one of the biggest things is making sure AI aligns with our values, human values. As AI gets more and more sophisticated, we have to be really careful about what we want it to do. And we need to put the right guardrails in place.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's not just about building smart AI. It's about making sure it's good for humanity. But how do we actually do that? How do we make sure AI is used for good and not for something bad?
It's tricky. It's a multifaceted problem. We need to promote responsible AI development, where ethical considerations are a part of every decision. We need to get input from all sorts of people, promote transparency, and create strong mechanisms for accountability.
So it's not just about the tech itself. It's about the people creating it and the rules we set up to control how it's used.
Yeah, exactly. We need to look at our laws and ethical frameworks and make sure they're ready for the challenges of AI. And we need to encourage open discussion between experts from all different fields, tech law, ethics, social sciences, so we can all be on the same page about the risks and opportunities.
That makes me think about education. How do we get future generations ready for a world where AI is everywhere?
Education is key. We need to give students the skills they need to succeed in an AI-powered world. That means technical skills like coding and data analysis, but also critical thinking, problem solving, and creativity, the things that make humans unique.
It's interesting to think about what jobs will look like as AI gets better. Some people are worried that AI will take over all the jobs.
It's a valid concern, but AI is a tool. Like any tool, it can be used for good or bad. The important thing is to use AI to make humans better, not to replace them.
So instead of being afraid of AI, we should focus on how to work with it.
Exactly. And that's where open source is so important. By making AI technology more accessible, transparent, and collaborative, we give people the power to shape AI for the benefit of everyone.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation. We went from OpenThinker to the future of AI and its impact on humanity.
It has been a fascinating journey.
As we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you want our listeners to remember?
Be engaged, stay informed, ask questions. AI is constantly changing, and it's up to all of us to make sure it changes in a way that's good for humanity.
That's a great message. Thank you to all our listeners for joining us on this deep dive into open source AI. We hope you found it as interesting as we did.
It's been a pleasure.
And until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep imagining the possibilities.